Okay, you know what I've been thinking about is demons. I know it sounds scary, but I'm going to talk right now as if you are already comfortable with the idea of spell casting or manifestation in some way. But what is the purpose of a demon? Should you be scared to summon demons? Those are the two questions I want to answer. So, first of all, the purpose is to control your ability to believe. Casting a spell, doing something magical, what ends up being crucial to the situation is that you can't have a successful manifestation. You can't cast a spell successfully unless you believe in your own technique. If you really think about what is going on with religious and magical rituals, for example, it's all about putting an idea into your subconscious mind that you can believe. You can consistently hold that belief to be genuine in a way that it changes your perception of reality itself. And now you're able to visualize things and have a different self concept and, act out on behaviors and aspects of your personality that weren't there before. And it's always contingent on belief. So there's more to talk about on that subject, but I don't want to get too sidetracked. So when we're talking about a demon, what a demon is, it doesn't it's not that demons aren't real, but they're not materially real. By definition, these entities don't have a physical body and they're not bound to any sort of physical body to continue their existence. They exist in some other dimension or aspect of reality, but it's not the physical 3D time space world that we inhabit. And so I know that it's a scary subject because a lot of people are thinking, well, demon is almost like synonymous in our culture in the mainstream culture with like an evil entity that wishes to do you harm and can do all of these magical abilities. So it is scary. But the thing is, really, a demon is anything that isn't a human being and that is sentient and exists but doesn't have a physical body like that. So it's like, small difference actually would be, let's say, a ghost. If you believe in ghosts, like in or astral projection or something like that, it's like your higher self can separate from your material body and you can potentially travel around. You can do other things because now you're not bound by the physical limitations of the reality that we're in. And so you have the chance to travel and go into other physical places or non-physical places, all types of other things. Again, don't want to get sidetracked. But the point is, a demon isn't necessarily evil. There's a lot of entities out there. So some of them could be really harmful and some of them might not be. But one thing they all share is that they have difficulty physically changing things in real time the way a human does. Since we have a physical body, a demon that inhabits anything with a physical body, like if a demon is, whether you believe in this or not, just for the sake of discussion, if an entity that is a spiritual entity inhabits your body with you, then it can also enjoy the good things that come with having a body, including physically doing things in the real world. Like if you didn't have a physical body, but you had a consciousness and were an entity, and you can see the physical world in some aspects, but you can't interact with it very much. They tend to almost like ignore some parts, large parts of the physical world, because it's irrelevant to them. The same way that you ignore, like you're not evolved to see ultraviolet radiation, but you can find evidence of ultraviolet radiation, and you can use technology to see it in various ways. You can make it fluoresce something so that it glows under a black light. You can burn your skin in the sun. There's all types of ways that that ultraviolet radiation exists, but you can't see it with your physical body. So that is, sometimes demons have these limitations where they're not entirely aware and comfortable about what is going on in the physical world. So if you allow them to inhabit your body, they now can use your eyes, they can use your senses and understand what's going on. And so obviously that would be dangerous, because if you don't know this entity, why would you share? Even if you just thought of this as another person, imagine allowing a person something as intimate as inhabiting your body with you. So it's of course dangerous. It's not something I'm recommending, but this is what, if you're ever wondering, like, what's in it for the demon? Why would this demon give me advice or help me do something or influence reality through other means on my behalf? And frequently it's because they can use you, including your mind and body, to do various things. Another thing is some entities aren't bound by time in the same way that we are. And that makes it difficult for them to grow and change or do anything that will like incorporate cause and effect. So you want something that they are going to need, like your assistance basically, to even fulfill what you ask of certain types of demons. And because of that, you have to work with the demon to make certain things happen. But what makes them a demon that you would want to work with is frequently that they can do things that you can't. They can do things that are superhuman or beyond human abilities, or they're difficult to describe in terms of human consciousness, how they're doing something, but they can change reality nonetheless. So they can't physically get up and say, like, write something down on a piece of paper, but they can set in motion a bridge of incidents that can then bring about a manifestation. And of course, you as a human being have the ability to manifest, but you might notice that sometimes it's quite difficult to actually make yourself believe in the manifestation. And that, the law of assumption is about your manifestation comes into being when you truly believe that it is already true. And so changing your belief like that requires manipulation of your own beliefs. So a huge advantage to communicating with a demon is that demons are a real entity. So they can't do certain things that a human can do, and a human can't do certain things that they can do. And a demon doesn't have a physical way to manifest themselves in like a corporal physical form in this world. But they can frequently do things that are, they'll seem impossible to a human. For instance, flicker the lights, make a face appear in a puff of smoke. So you're staring into, like looking at a cloud, looking at the smoke coming off of an incense burner or something like that, and you'll see the uncanny, like unmistakable form of a face, and hear an internal voice in your head talking in time with that voice. And in effect, you're hearing a voice speak to you from a floating head in that smoke. So this is like an experience you could have if you did have that experience. Maybe other people wouldn't believe you, right? But from your perspective, you now really, really believe, because you have had a spiritual experience that now your belief is much more solid. So if you are having a conversation with this entity, and the entity can kind of bend the rules of reality to give you a much more believable, not always quite empirical, but much more convincing evidence that they exist, well, now you can manipulate your belief a lot easier. So is that the demon doing something for you? It's, if you if you wanted a completely secular explanation, it's almost like you're driving yourself mad to the point of hallucination in order to warp your your beliefs so that you now are so confident in your ability to do some other thing that you can act in the world and notice things you didn't notice before, and therefore your perception changes the reality that you're in. So there is still, sort of like a metaphysical scientific explanation sometimes, if that's what it takes for you to believe, because since it's a tricky thing to do magic or manifestation, because in order to manipulate your own beliefs you do have to believe in it, but in order for it to be successful you have to change those beliefs, and that makes it tricky to it's hard to even describe, but if you can successfully do those things, then you can put yourself in a mind state where you're noticing. The best way I can secularly describe it is always about noticing aspects of reality that you previously didn't notice. So now you suddenly have more options and more ability to do things. And another aspect of it is sometimes that it's like you didn't have enough confidence or belief in self, or you didn't have the understanding or empathy for other people involved in your specific goal, so you couldn't accomplish it. But by having an outside perspective and interaction with a third party, then now you are seeing the world slightly different. So how are demons dangerous? Well, an example, of course, they could have any type. They're an entity. They're not under your control. They can lie to you. It's not the same thing as an imaginary friend. A demon is actually its own mind and can decide to do things or not do things. So they have all different personalities, but if you can develop a relationship, a conversation, and it's sort of like an interview almost, to do a summoning ritual, interact with a demon, get to know them, and decide for yourself if this is an arrangement that you would like to get involved in. But is there some risk to even summoning the demon? Well, what you're doing is creating a circumstance where the demon can somehow appear to you in a hallucination, in a dream, in a physical form of some method. And sometimes it's very, very prominent and obvious and physical, and sometimes it is some kind of psychological manifestation. And then you can have an interaction with them, and then you can decide for yourself what the reason that it's basically safe. I mean, you should definitely be extremely careful about like what type of entity you are looking to summon, and you should take that into consideration. But most demons, to simply notice somebody who has the mindset that would allow them to communicate from our material aspects of reality that they can't easily access, is just as intriguing and interesting as it is to you interacting with a demon, where if you could interact with a demon and have definite logical proof that you are actually interacting with a spiritual entity that doesn't have a physical body, right? Then you would be intrigued and impressed. So it's not like wasting the demon's time. It's if you're a respectful, nice person, the same way if you met a new person. If you just are respectful and kind and interested in them, that is at least your foot in the door to, you've already offered friendship, like interaction, respectful interaction with them. So it's basic manners is what you're offering, and that you're an ambassador from one world into another. It's the same world, but another aspect of reality. And so the demon can sort of be on equal footing, and you're using. If you're doing a ritual, oftentimes the ritual is designed to protect you as the summoner, so that you can have some sort of limitation on how much interaction the demon can do with your mind and body and physical environment around you, so that you're safe. But really, that just requires you to believe in that magic. A lot of times there's an elaborate ritual, and the purpose of that is because it's sort of like how there are different techniques of hypnosis. In order to, what you're trying to do with the ritual is sort of like put your own beliefs into a state of like plausible deniability so that you have the option of believing you're talking to this entity, but also the option to back out of it and be like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? Which is oftentimes really what the protection magic is doing, is putting the option into the experience of bailing on it and having it not be real from your opinion. And so you can dispel the entire situation. You can banish the demon instantly by just revoking your belief right on the spot. So not everybody has that kind of control over their belief, but it's sort of like going to the gym. Casting a spell, doing an elaborate ritual, instead of looking at it as a manifestation technique, if you look at it as a summoning ritual, then you're putting these thoughts and behaviors into your subconscious mind. Whether you believe the ritual is real or not, actually, your subconscious mind will embrace the experience as something you really did. And that's the reason that sometimes, interacting with a demon has this reputation for being dangerous, because it's like, okay, you maybe can stop seeing the demon, and the demon is like not, you've protected yourself in the moment from anything bad happening. But the experience of talking to them, and it did change your understanding and beliefs. And so moving forward, you now apparently have a subconscious belief, even if you don't have a conscious belief. Sometimes you just have a subconscious understanding that you really did see something. You're like, wow, that experience was not what I thought. It's much more real than I thought. And now your mind is actually different. You have a different set of memories that will affect what you think about the subject of magic and demons and manifestation moving forward from that point. So that's the danger of it. If the entity that you were conjuring is really impolite and mean, and it gets its foot in the door where it's on your mind now, you might start to see other little signs of it around. And that's the way to protect yourself about that, is to make sure your protection magic is something you really genuinely believe works. And so you need to start with protection magic. Don't ever start with summoning something or doing some kind of spell like that's dangerous as an opening thing. So it's like, I get it that people get excited. They're like, maybe if this works, I'll really be convinced, So if they want to use a Ouija board to contact a ghost or something like that, that's what people want to do really bad sometimes. But the problem with that is you'll notice sometimes that the psychological effects of the Ouija board, for example, might, if a bunch of children are playing with it, one kid is like, we were all just fooling around, and of course there's plausible deniability because we're all participating. One of us was moving the cursor or whatever. But another kid is quite convinced, and it's difficult to change their mind, because whatever their experience was in the moment is not just what's physically happening, but it's also psychologically how they felt. And so they might have felt the hand of a spiritual experience. They're not like necessarily wrong. So that's what you're doing. You're manipulating your ability to understand, and you need to protect your mind, because once you start to believe in magic, you can't easily undo it. You're going to struggle. It's like, it's all fine and good to be a modern human who has the option of not believing in anything, not having any superstitions, not believing in any spiritual truth, right? But then once you start to be like, wow, I mean, now that I hallucinated and saw like the face of this other being looking at me, then it's difficult to deny that it's real. Well, now that your understanding of reality is different, so then you're going to have trouble stopping an entity like that from communicating with you through signs and coincidences and dreams and daydreams and other forms of hallucination and delusion. So you're playing with your sanity to mess with these things. You don't want to drive yourself mad. So make sure that you first understand these concepts before you actually try to summon a dangerous entity from another dimension. Should probably not even need to be said, but It's the number one lesson. If you're interested in doing that kind of thing, you start with protection magic. Think about what protection magic is. Do some research on that on your own. It's a topic for another video of another time. But what the benefit of like I said, there's all different dispositions that these demons could have. So some of them they're a pleasure to work with. They don't mean you any harm. They would like to know more about what you as a human who believes in and can understand how to communicate with them. They want to know more about you. So you can even develop that kind of relationship where you can allow an entity to cohabitate in your body with you. You can even give up full control of your body and have an entity walk around in your body, be fully possessed if you trust that entity. So it's difficult to talk about these things. People will think you are crazy. And if you think about modifying and changing your belief for the purpose of doing things that other people would consider impossible, you're playing with a force that really could drive you mad. From the outside, from what other people's perception would be, is that you are starting to lose your mind and believe in nonsensical things. So you will have trouble getting any sort of spell or manifestation to work if you successfully pull it off and then revoke your belief. You'll find it to quickly unravel and not work again and not even be reliable. So you need to maintain your belief. You need to credit the forces that got you the thing you want. But, that's secrecy is important because, for one thing, it can really shake your belief. If you start to talk openly all the time, like if I started telling all certain people in my life about my magical thinking and my belief in manifestation and spell casting, they would just think I'm crazy. And I would, on some level, then be influenced by that and be like, maybe they're right. And that would affect my belief and on a subconscious level, and it would stop me from being able to manifest as well. But once the manifestation happens, sometimes you can find little loopholes in that by sort of shrugging it off. Like people like, I don't understand why you have such good luck. And I'm just like, yeah, well, I'm just really good at manifesting. And, the average person kind of understands a little bit about what that means. So they're like, ha, ha, ha. And I don't mind laughing it off. I'm not there to proselytize and convert them. I just, the people who want to know and want to talk about it, I'm glad to have that discourse with them. But the people who don't believe, I'm like, well, they're in their own world of non-believing. And from their perspective, everything that got me the things I want were hard work and luck and coincidences. And so their reality is intact. My reality is intact. No harm done. So the point of demons is that as an entity who isn't you, there's some things that you don't have the perspective or the understanding of reality in the same way that this other entity does. And so you can't do certain things. Even sometimes what a demon can accomplish isn't even through you. You can, if a demon is willing to work with you, sometimes they can just set in motion strange bridges of incidents, which will just make things happen in the material reality, but they're never directly using a physical body to do it. It's kind of unclear how they're doing it sometimes, but the effects will be very real and noticeable. And and then there's another important one, which I made a different video about, which is like, when you change timelines, what you're essentially doing with manifestation and spell work is you're changing to a very similar timeline that has these new desirable qualities that you want. And what happens is your memory then becomes edited, and it's pretty quick. So you have this little window of time where you remember the old timeline, but then those memories contradict the new memories from the new brain and the new timeline. And so you start to just not believe in magic once again. So another huge, huge benefit to working with a demon is that I don't know how, but for some reason, demons can break those rules. They can allow you to step back and forth between timelines rapidly. You can do things you would think are impossible, that if you were doing them just with spell work or manifestation. There's something about having an outside perspective that isn't bound by time and space, helping you do something that for some reason allows you to maintain continuity across multiple timelines at once, across a contradictory timeline from an older timeline that you just left. You can still remember what was going on in that timeline while you're inhabiting the new timeline. So that it's a very difficult concept for some people to accept. And I can honestly say at my point in education about these metaphysics and magical things, I can't say that I really have a strong handle on what else is going on or why that works, but I can definitely say there are also other things. I mean, like I said, these demons are all different from each other. Demon is just kind of an all-encompassing word for anything that is not operating as God or on the behalf of God. So it's like not a human, it's not an angel or like an agent of God in any way, but it is a real entity. It's a real consciousness, but it's not operating on behalf of God. So it doesn't have to follow the rules of continuity. It can break all types of rules, but there are consequences to breaking rules, of course. So it is tricky and dicey. The best demons to work with are the ones who are benevolent, obviously, and they would like to communicate with you about what you're actually agreeing between the two of you. Not all demons will do that. And in fact, there are plenty of demons out there who will lie. So you can think you're allowing them to warp your perception or change something in your physical reality and in exchange for something else. But once you allow them to do that through you and through your perception, then you're allowing them into your mind and body. And so you're essentially giving up some elements of control about yourself, and that there are plenty of entities out there that will exploit that. So the reason it's, you could go off on your own and just try to summon random entities, but that's obviously, it's like not being streetwise, sort of. So what you want to do is learn about what options there are, what demons are there out there, how easy and difficult might they be to summon, what do they have to offer, and why. And then you can make a decision down the road about whether or not that's a good move for you. And definitely start with protection magic. Practice protecting yourself from other humans. Practice protecting yourself against other people who, if you've ever had someone curse you or psychically attack you or use manifestation to do something contrary to your wants and needs, then what's actually happening is your belief in your ability to have a pleasant and controllable reality is faltering in the face of some other contradictory belief. And so what protection magic really is modifying your beliefs using hypnosis, self-hypnosis, and influencing your subconscious in some way. So that's what's going on with summoning demons. Start with protection magic, be extremely careful, research is your friend. Don't believe everything that just pops into your mind, okay? So thank you so much for watching this entire video if you made it that far. I'm the entity. Thanks.